Pain don't hurt, or does it? With the 2024 Roadhouse hitting prime this weekend, we thought, you know what? What if we took another look at 1989's Roadhouse, the movie that started it all, every dad's favorite film? Christy, tell us about it.
When he's around, anything can happen.
How's a guy like you end up a bouncer?
Just lucky, I guess.
Patrick Swayze is Dalton. He's got a PhD in philosophy and a black belt in karate, and uses all these formidable skills to try to wrangle drunk assholes at dive bars. For some reason, this is his calling, not to rough them up, but to be nice to them until you don't have to be nice anymore. That's the way he does it. So he gets a call to go and take over the Double Deuce outside of Kansas City. It's rough and tumble, and he's the only guy who can do it and fix it and help the owner rehabilitate it and make it a classy joint. And so he goes there, and it's chaos from the beginning, but he also happens to fall in love with the most beautiful doctor in town, played by Kelly Lynch, and his old mentor, played by Sam Elliott, comes to help him. And Ben Gazzara is like the thug. I don't know. Is he even a mob boss? What even is he?
He's the town tyrant.
Right. Like nothing better to do, but then just, shake down all the business owners, whether you've got a car dealership or a hardware store. Doesn't matter what your establishment is. He's coming for you to get his cut. So, for whatever reason, Dalton decides that he needs to stay there and make things better and help people. This is directed by Rowdy Herrington. This came out in 1989. And I don't have any tremendously fond memories of this movie. I think I saw it in somebody's dorm in college. I don't think I have, this is a great reason why we do our Was It Great or Were You 8 series that I love so much, because it's the kind of movie that maybe you saw when you were a kid, maybe you saw when you were younger and you have good memories of it. And then you watch it again as an adult and you're like, oh, that was dumb. But here's my question for you, as I know there's a great divide on this as to whether it is bad or so bad it's good. And I feel like watching it now that it intends to be as over the top as it is. It intends to be as cheesy as it is. You and I just talked about Showgirls on our Patreon, our monthly off the menu poll. Our patrons pick Showgirls for us. And so I feel like Roadhouse knows what it is the way Showgirls knows what it is. And that occurred to me during that first scene when Dalton goes to the Double Deuce. And the way the chaos just levels up and up. There's a steady kind of hum of, broken bottles and people shouting and just
drug
scuffling in the background. You can hear it but then it grows to ridiculously comic heights when everyone is throwing beer bottles and breaking them over their heads, and the waitresses are holding up trays, and it's one thing after another. And I feel like that is the light bulb that I have, where I'm like, oh, they mean this.
It's a hard to tell. I mean, I think it is so bad it's good in that it's really watchable. It does move along, and if you're there for fights and explosions, this movie delivers, no question. I don't know that it always knows how stupid it is, and especially now that I've seen the new one, which we'll be reviewing later this week, which I think totally knows how stupid it is, which is not necessarily a plus. But this one, it's hard to say. This character is so ridiculous. On paper, he's got a degree in philosophy, but he's this roughneck bouncer at bars, but the great bouncer. There's this whole sort of Western structure where he's the stranger who rides into town, and there's a trope that's in movies where if you want to make the audience sympathize with your leading man, you make sure that he is friendly to children or animals or people with a disability. And so you've got the great blues guitarist Jeff Buckley as your blind guy.
No, Jeff Healey.
Sorry. Jeff Healey, who was Dalton's old pal, and I'm like, okay, we're doing that, and it just kind of checks off these things of how the standoffs go with the underlings of the bad guy until finally it's the big boss battle at the end. But Patrick Swayze, as movie badasses go, is such a dancer. You know, like the way he moves, there's such a grace to it that it works, it's effective. It's just not what you're used to in this kind of bare knuckle brawl movie. But the first time we see him, he's wearing pleated pants, for God's sake.
Pleated khakis. But that's the point, because there's a whole running bit where they're like, I thought you'd be bigger.
I thought you'd be bigger, exactly.
The legend of him, like the thing that he did that I guess is the reason that he has to now work in shitty bars like this. You know, there's this legend that he reached in and he pulled somebody's throat out of their neck, you know? And so we know that makes him sort of a fearsome, mysterious figure.
Right.
Also, he is, besides being kind to the disabled, he's also kind to all of the working class people in this town,
yes.
Whether it's the owner of the hardware store or the farmer who he rents the room above the barn, in a way that reminded me of Perfect Days. Right? It says a lot about our lead character in Perfect Days that he is kind to all the other fellow working class people.
Right, the waitress.
There's a respect among all of them. And so he's got that too. But then there's also, because there are these giant barn doors that open up in his bedroom, like plenty of opportunities to just have like bare ass Patrick Swayze just walking around naked.
I mean, and clearly this is a character design thing. Man, he is so cool. He drives a Mercedes and he's into Zen and he like, you know, he doesn't need air conditioning in that barn. And it's like, yeah,
he's mythical.
It's so, I mean, this movie is ludicrous, but never dull.
No. And also part of what his mystique is that he does not drink. So when he is at the bar,
yes.
You know, and he's in charge of things and telling everyone like how to behave and how to throw the bad guys out, he's drinking coffee. But imagine how much better it would be in Roadhouse 1989 if he were drinking Coffee Brothers coffee, right? How much better would Dalton have been at his job with Coffee Brothers coursing through his veins? We have a deal
Best
with our
in
friends.
The biz, people.
A deal with our friends at Coffee Brothers. Take 15% off of your order with our code breakfast15. The code's down below. Every flavor is delicious. Costa Rica, Nicaragua. You guys have all loved the espresso roast and the dark roast. So go get some of that and be better at your job.
Be like Dalton.
Like Dalton. So I got to talk about Ben Gazzara because I think he's legitimately good in this. I think he's legitimately menacing in this in an understated way. And I love the scene toward the end where all the other business owners in town are coming at him. And there's that glass coffee table in the living room. And you know, if there's a glass coffee table in the living room, someone's going through that glass coffee table. Right. Which is why also I think they mean it, like in terms of how they pace this and ratcheting up the violence and the tension, like they place that coffee table there and you're just waiting for that to get shattered.
Well, yeah, but again, like I think this movie is skillful at doing what it wants to do and appealing to the audience it wants to appeal to, but I don't think it's necessarily doing it with tongue in cheek. I think it's being very straightforward about like, this is going to be a big He-Man movie and we're going to put that coffee table there so you know later we're going to use it. But I don't think that necessarily is like a wink on anybody's part. I think it's just like, no, we're doing it. It's so cool. It's going to be great, you know.
One thing I noticed was really funny is that this was all shot in Southern California.
Oh, wow.
At one point, he is in the Jeep with Kelly Lynch, and they are driving toward the car dealership where the asshole thug with the big tires on the trucks is going to go destroy it. And there's a sign behind them that says 134 to Los Angeles. LA is this way, Bakersfield is this way.
We didn't have digital erasure back then, I guess. Yeah, this is all supposed to be Missouri, but you know,
right.
whatever.
It's all shot in Santa Clarita, but the giant house with the lake and all that and all the naked people is in, it's not Missouri. It's definitely, it's I can't remember where it is, but it's not in California. I want to talk about how totally retrograde this movie is and some things that would not fly if it got made today. I've not yet watched the new one, but like there's a line, you know what I'm going to say, right?
Please.
The line about, I used to fuck guys like you in prison.
Yeah. Well, this movie has that's another thing that I think they don't know that they're doing, in the same way that Alex Jones didn't know what he was doing when he said, I will eat your leftist ass. This movie is like, has such a weird thread of homoeroticism going through it between that line and like, I'm going to get your ass and I'm not going to show you my dick. And like, it's just like, it is so macho that it's gay, really, I think a lot in this movie. And then, of course, this is also one of those movies where it's like, oh, the bad guys are bad because they're so objectifying of women and treat them so badly. Let's show that for a while. Like literally, the opening tracking shot of this movie is a sports car parks in a parking lot. The door opens, a pair of heels swing out as Patrick Swayze is on the screen. For a second, I thought I was watching To Wong Fu by mistake. And then the camera follows the heels and then tracks up to the tight ass in a miniskirt of this woman who we never see again.
Nope.
Like we are ogling an extra who is in no way relevant to the story that we're about to watch. So it's like this movie wants it both ways, where like we know that Dalton is awesome, partially because he respects women, and even when they throw themselves at him, he's like, hey, calm down. But at the same time, the movie can't get enough of like, look at these trashy bimbos and their tight fitting outfits.
That, but also the main trashy bimbo who is Ben Gazzara's girlfriend or whatever. Clearly, he beats her.
Yes,
because when Patrick Swayze goes to the house to talk to him, she's got a black eye while she's doing aerobics. So like he beats her, but also wants to like trot her out there to do a strip tease. Sure, baby, you can dance.
Yeah, and again, which I'm sure probably all scans in terms of like, look at my property, look at what happens when my property talks back. The character is gross, and of course, I see Ben Gazzara in a movie, and I just think, man, you were in Husbands, you worked with John Cassavetes, and now you're making this, but get paid, man.
I think he's bringing that to this, though. I think he's actually trying to make this a real character.
He's committing to the bit, no question. He is doing his best to give you like small town villain.
All right. Well, what's your number on Roadhouse 1989?
Oh, man. I mean, like, I guess like a 6.5. It's so stupid, but it is fun to watch. And it did give us the Mystery Science Theater Patrick Swayze Christmas song. I got the word that Santa has been stealing from the till. But yeah, it is in no way good, but you will have a good time watching it.
Yeah, I will say like a 6.8. I also had a good time watching it. We are right in that sweet spot in between Dirty Dancing and Point Break here as far as like peak Swayze.
Yep.
So he's ultimately so watchable, and this movie is silly fun. So yes, Roadhouse. So go back and rewatch Roadhouse. Let us know what you thought of it, and then come back on Friday where we're going to review the new one with Jake Gyllenhaal.